Today's episode, we will focus on workplace inclusion for people with disabilities. And today's special guest is my friend Donna Mack. Hello, my name is Glen, your cultural competency navigator, keynote speaker, and diversity and inclusion in the workplace trainer. My goal is to deliver practical solutions to organizations seeking to reap the proven benefits of a diverse, inclusive, and culturally competent workforce. Today's episode, we will focus on workplace inclusion for people with disabilities. And today's special guest is my friend Donna Mack. As the Disability Diplomat, Donna Mack has the goal of making accessibility accessible. She is a professional speaker and consultant who works with businesses that want to grow profits, magnify messages, and transform cultures by increasing disability access and inclusion. She is a charter member and immediate past chairperson of the Arlington's Mayor's Committee on People with Disabilities. She has served on committees for national employment, regional transportation, and disability access for both AT&T Stadium and Globe Life Field. AT&T Stadium, is that Jerry World?
Yeah, it is Jerry World.
Jerry World,
Yes,
okay. And in November of 2021, she was appointed Disability Access Lead for the Dallas World Cup 2026. All right. My family is looking forward to maybe doing some World Cup stuff. So
awesome.
she's part of that human rights leadership team, and she's developing the first human rights plan for sports. Wow. She has been quoted in Forbes magazine and Monster.com. So just want to welcome the Disability Diplomat karaoke goddess. Okay. And in her words, always the last one chosen for Pictionary. Now, so Donna, we're going to have to talk about this Pictionary thing. Why are you the last person chosen for Pictionary?
Because I use a guide dog.
Because you use a guide dog. So, Donna is legally blind, and I don't know, Donna, do you have any vision, or you're
For
totally blind?
all practical purposes, I am totally blind. I mean, I didn't start out that way. I was born 2.5 months premature,
Okay.
and until I was about 12, I could I could read newsprint. Okay, I could ride a
Okay.
bike. I could do the things most kids could do, but I had a marked nearsightedness, and
Okay.
preemies tend to have weak retinas.
Yeah.
Now, thank God, they have good treatments so that kids' vision, preemies, typically don't have the extent of the visual issues that somebody my age would have. But
Okay.
hey, I'm just happy to be here and be alive and have a great life.
All right. All right. And you also the karaoke goddess. Now, does your guide dog
Absolutely.
help you with karaoke?
Actually, I typically leave her home when I
Okay.
do karaoke because it's too loud.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't want her ears to hurt. So
Okay. All right. I didn't know maybe if she could howl on key or anything like that.
no, she is a dog of many talents, but she cannot howl on key.
Okay. All
Just
right.
saying.
Well, all right. Well, let's get into our subject today, and Donna, and so people know a little bit about you. You know, you have an impressive resume, but today we're going to talk about inclusion, and I work a lot in cultural competency, diversity, equity, and inclusion field, but I do think that a lot of times we fail to include uh, people with disabilities. We don't think about the accommodations that we need to make, and when we're working with people who have different maybe physical abilities or physical limitations. And so today, Don, I want to talk to you a little bit about just the importance of that in a workplace. How would you frame this as someone that works in this field of inclusion?
I think inclusion it's hugely important. And I think sometimes to look at where we are, where disability is concerned, I think we kind of have to look at where we came from. Disability is a topic that is really hugely uncomfortable for a lot of people. And I'll try to make this brief, but just to give you a little bit of history, back in the day, like during the industrial revolution,
Yeah.
before the pre-industrial revolution, everybody lived on farms, and people
Hmm.
just kind of, even people with disabilities, everybody did what they could do to contribute to the good of the household or the
Right.
community. And families just found a way to for everybody to contribute.
Right.
And then when mechanization happened, a lot of families were moving to cities to, get more opportunities for their family members, and workers who could compete rose to the top. But people who were not as efficient weren't able to do that. So there began to be situations where folks all of a sudden didn't have a way to contribute to their families. So they would beg on the street
On the
corners.
street, yeah.
Yeah. And so what happened is community elected officials, elders, whatever you want to call them, across the country and in lots of large cities, they would they wound up having making ordinances,
Mhm.
which a lot of us now refer to as ugly laws, to prevent people with disabilities or deformities from, if they wanted to beautify their streets, they didn't want us hanging out there.
Oh, okay.
And people were fined, and if they could not pay the fine, and many of these people had grown up with disabilities, so did not have work experience, they were thrown into the poorhouse.
Wow.
So, it was as much a statement, if not more, about socioeconomic status, because there were some people who were kind of exempted from the ugly laws. Like if somebody had been a Civil War veteran, they were excluded from that.
Okay.
And I'm sure that people of color or people who were maybe non-binary or in the LGBTQ community, if they had some intersectionality and also had a disability, they probably had it double or triple worse. Um, you know, so it was really awful. And so it was kind of people with disabilities out of sight, out of mind. Um, there were people who referred to us as half human
Oh, wow.
monstrosities and things. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a quote in the Chicago Tribune about that from the 1870s at some point. And honestly, the last ugly law did not come off the books until 1970. I think it was 1973 in
Okay.
Chicago. It was the 70s anyway. So, you have ordinances like that in play, and people just kind of don't talk about disability because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about it. But the other thing is, one way of looking at disability is the medical model, which kind of assumes that because somebody's body has some limitations, oh well, let's fix them, let's cure them, let's make them
Mm.
like everybody else, because they'll have a better quality of life. And it assumes that, maybe my quality of life will be less than yours
Right.
because I can't see and you can.
Yeah.
Um, but then there's the social model, which of disability, which I love this paradigm because it assumes more that everybody has pretty much an equal chance of having good quality of life. That what really determines disability is how society is set up in the first place. Is it
Yeah.
is it inclusive? Are there ways that everybody can contribute and participate, or not? And that the way society and its systems are set up is what's disabling for people.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's I need to look up those ugly laws and kind of learn a little bit more about that. But that's interesting, and I think that
Yeah.
you think about these things, they probably have a long lasting impact, right? At
Oh yeah.
some point in our history, we push people with physical disabilities, limitations, or differences. We push them kind of aside. Now we're not in the industrial age anymore. We're actually in the age of knowledge, and so physical aptitude in the workplace is probably not as important as it was 20 years 20 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. Exactly. And with technology, that there are. I mean, hey, my computer talks to me.
Yeah, yeah,
It levels the playing field for a lot of us to enable us to do what our able-bodied counterparts would be able to do.
okay. So what are some of misconceptions people have now, you think, that creates these barriers that keep them really from hiring people, qualified intelligent people that may have some physical limitations or need some accommodations in the workplace?
Well, one thing is just people don't even, a lot of people don't understand the legal definition of disability. And I am not an attorney, so I'm going
Okay.
to paraphrase. But
Okay.
basically, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, a disability is a condition that prevents you from engaging in one or more activities of daily function. Now, that can be, the obvious stuff like uh, walking, seeing, hearing, but it can also be things like the inability to the like the inability to manage your energy levels
Oh,
or
yeah.
or regulate mood or be able to the inability to focus.
Okay.
So we're talking about conditions that maybe people can't see,
Okay.
and 20 1 in 4 Americans currently has some form of disability by 2030. And I honestly think before then,
Uh-huh.
because we don't have census data, after the pandemic.
Right.
Um, but by 2030, they're saying that 1 in 3 Americans will be a person with a disability. And I think because of long COVID,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if we're there or we're really close now. We just haven't um, we don't have the stats to prove that right now,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's certainly on its way. And 60% of all disabilities are invisible disabilities.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, and I do, I again, we don't know how this data is gonna, finally show up in the workplace, but I do think this COVID is gonna have an impact, and we're gonna have to make more accommodations for a broader portion of the society. I mean, I have a friend of mine that I know who has long COVID, who was an athlete, was a football player, and now is suffering, these physical debilitations, and they're random sometimes because of long COVID. They're kind of
Yeah,
unpredictable.
exactly. And that's what I mean by like the inability to regulate people's energy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, some people, especially people with like autoimmune disorders and stuff,
Hmm.
um, have difficulty with that. You've got people with diabetes that
Yeah,
have to regulate their blood sugar. So
yeah,
I think that a lot of it is that people, number one, they otherize it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
disabilities like cancer and divorce, it always happens to somebody else till it happens to you or somebody,
Right,
in your
right.
circle that you care about.
Yeah.
So
What is interesting? It's kind of you've kind of taken me on a little different turn here, and broadening this definition. And I like it. I do. I like that we sometimes we need to broaden our narrow focus of when we're thinking about these different identity characteristics. So, uh, one of the things I do think, you never want to move away from the main thing, but I do think understanding that disabilities come in many different forms makes us realize that these accommodations aren't just like something wild and way out there. If we make
no,
reasonable
no.
accommodations along the way, we can start bringing in better talent, really qualified people by just making some small changes in the workplace.
Well, and people, I think they think of a disability, I'm sorry, as of an accommodation as being something that's going to be some grand, sweeping, expensive gesture. Okay. And a disability accommodation can be nothing more than saying, hey, I'm going to need to take, if somebody needs to manage their blood sugar, for example,
Uh huh.
they may have to have certain times that they take breaks where, they can eat to maintain their blood sugar levels. And either that's going to give them a little bit of a flex time during their lunch hour, or maybe if that means they're going to miss an extra 15 minutes of work, then they just make that up at
Right.
the end of the day, or they come in 15 minutes early. um, just little things like that. As far as as far as workplace, well, let me go back to disability for just a second. I think too that again, people tend to think it always happens to somebody else, but
Hmm.
the disability community is pretty welcoming, and you
Yeah.
don't need to wait around for an invitation to join us, and you will all join us eventually if you don't
Yeah.
die first. We are the
It's not funny, but it's probably
Oh,
true.
it's no, it is funny and it is true, and it makes people think.
Oh my
And
goodnand
and people, I think that people, they don't stop to realize that. I
Yeah.
mean, I just, we're the largest, most underrepresented
Okay.
minority group in the country. It's
Yeah. Man,
it's going to happen to you or somebody you
oh
care
wow.
about.
Yeah, that Donna, that's kind of that's really powerful because I mean as you think about it, as I look at demographics and the work population is actually getting older. So they say octogenarians are going to be one of the largest growing groups. And uh, I don't know how many younger people are watching this, but I'm 53 now, and my body does not work like it did when it was 30. Like really, like my fingers are like locking up now. Like I got this trigger finger thing, and my knees hurt sometimes, and that's no way to minimize people that have other more significant things, but it makes a difference, right? There are some things that I just
Oh,
can't
absolutely.
physically do now that I did as a young worker. And it's yeah, and it's so that I think that's something for all of us to think about. Hey, you're going to have an aging population, and if you're not suffering from some type or experiencing some type of disability now, you may in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
keep living, huh? That's what you're saying, Donna. Keep living.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I like it better on this side of the grass myself.
Okay.
Just say
That's funny. So we talked a little bit about reasonable accommodations and like what do you think employers should do to create this other than some of these accommodations? How can they recruit and hire individuals with disabilities? What would make someone
it.
say, hey, yeah, this is a place for me, or I know that I'll be able to be successful in this workplace?
Well, as far as that's concerned, I think just, oh my gosh, so many things. Um, looking Taking an assessment of your workplace
Uh-huh.
and seeing everything from, does your parking meet ADA standards? Do you
Okay.
have enough accessible parking spaces? And I will tell you that if it's someplace like a grocery store
Uh-huh.
or a grocery store or a doctor's office or like an entertainment venue, there's never enough accessible parking, even if
Yeah.
it meets the standard. The other thing is, remember, this is a tiny bit off topic, but it's not. It's kind of an umbrella thing to say,
Okay.
is the Americans with Disabilities Act. I think most people tend to think, oh, that's a gold standard. No, it's not. It's a minimum set of standards. It is.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you're just meeting and not exceeding the standard, you're doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
It's believe me, it's not a gold standard. Look at everything. Look at, whenever you approach a business, probably most of us, the first thing we're going to do is go look up that business on the web.
Uh-huh.
Is your website accessible to people with disabilities? If you don't
Yeah.
know,
That's a good one.
find
Yeah.
out. Hire somebody like me to go look at your website,
Okay. All right.
um, or be sure that your web designers really, really know what's going on as far as um, making your site accessible. Um,
Mhm.
is your site accessible? Do you? And that's really huge,
So is
because
that like so you make like making your site accessible, and especially if like for job offers, right? That section, but is that just having it so that like the pictures are marked, or what would be some things that you
oh,
would look for when you're talking about an accessible
some
website?
things I would look for: making sure that your pictures on your website have alt text. It stands for
Yep.
alternative text.
Yep.
And a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we look at that and go, oh, that's going to increase our search engine optimization. But actually, I mean, yeah, and it will if you use it appropriately,
Okay. All
but
right.
alt text was originally designed for blind people. It
Mm-hmm.
was designed for people like me to
Okay.
be able to have an idea of what's in your picture, because honestly, that gives me a feel for the personality of your company.
Yeah.
And it also tells me that you value me as a customer
Right.
if you're willing to make your website accessible.
Yeah.
You should have an accessibility statement on your website,
Okay.
which those are commonly in the footer, but they also need to be in prominent other places, like in your help menu, or in your site menu. Um, just a couple of, not just in the footer, because if your site's not very accessible,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to stick around and go all the way to the footer. I need it
Oh,
up
okay.
somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just basically says that we are dedicated and committed to accessibility.
Okay.
Um, and if there are known issues with the website, that may be stated there, but it gives people a point of contact if they
Mm-hmm.
see issues with the website, or if they require assistance in an area of the website that maybe is not fully accessible. So,
Okay.
it's letting people know that you value their patronage.
Yeah. So that's an easy thing to do. So if I don't know who's listening to this uh right now or watching this, that's an easy thing to do is go talk. I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk to my web designer and make sure I try to do alt text though, because I knew about the alt text thing. I try to do that with
Awesome.
most of my pictures, but I'm going to double check. I'm going to talk to my website designer and make sure that gets done. But that's an easy thing. That isn't going
Oh,
to
yeah, for sure.
cost you more to add a sentence to say, hey, this is a picture of Glenn dancing. That doesn't cost extra.
Oh man, I would love to see that, Glenn. I'm just saying. Um, but yeah, I mean, exactly. And something else, sometimes people forget to put alt text on certain links. They forget to label them with alt text.
Oh,
So
okay.
when my screen reader goes over it, it'll
Yeah.
say link, 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 or button,
Oh, okay.
button, button.
Okay.
And it's like, social media icons used to be the worst about that.
Yeah.
So because people would go, oh, well, people can see the icon and know that that's Instagram or Facebook
Oh,
or LinkedIn.
yeah.
But
I
it's like,
didn't think
no,
about
you
that.
gotta be sure you
Okay.
got some.
I,
So there's that. Forms, you want to be sure your forms are accessible. If one part of your form is not accessible, then your whole form is really not accessible.
okay.
But again, if you have an accessibility statement that gives you a point of contact, or if you have any issues with this
Oh, okay.
website, please email this person, then at least the person has a workaround.
Yeah.
uh you know
And
so
and that's so simple, Donna. I mean, I mean, it's just so simple. And links and all those other things. I'm gonna make sure I'm going to be committed to that. That's one thing I know I can do
awesome.
with my business, and it doesn't take much extra work. So that's one of the things, people have these misconceptions about reasonable accommodations, like the cost and the complexity. But what you just talked about is just a really simple first step, and especially, I think about a lot of my business comes from SEO. If you do these
Right.
things, people are going to look for you, so you can just expand your talent base. You can expand your
Exactly.
customer base by just fixing a couple of things on your website.
Yeah, and if you're thoughtful about your wording, I mean, it'll make you more accessible, but it'll also bump up your SEO.
All right.
um and the other thing, yeah, the other thing I want to say about accommodations is, I should have looked at the exact numbers before I jumped on here, but I didn't
Uh-huh.
think about it, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But like something like 46% roughly of accommodations cost nothing. And
Yeah.
another something like 43% of them, the median cost is $300 or less.
Okay.
So, there's a very small percentage of
Yeah.
job accommodations that are going to
Right.
cost more than $300. And depending on the size of your business, especially for small businesses, there are some tax incentives where you
Mhm.
may be able to get tax credits on a part of whatever you are providing as a reasonable workplace accommodation. And what makes it a reasonable workplace accommodation is that it does not create a financial hardship for the
Oh, okay.
employer.
Okay.
So,
So I mean, and so I think so. Now I tell people this when I work with other aspects of diversity and inclusion. I tell people, hey, you have to figure out what you want to do, like how much you're going to invest time and energy. I mean, what would you say to people? Now I know there's some legal requirements for accommodations, but again, how do people decide, like, well, how much is too much or how much is not enough? And I know we shouldn't be thinking about it like that, but people think about it like that. How do we decide, kind of, or like, what's a good guide, do you think, for employers?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I can't say because it depends on the size of the employer.
Okay.
Um, and it is the responsibility of the employee with the disability or the applicant with the disability to request a reasonable
Okay.
accommodation.
And
Okay.
so the
And
employee can request these things or
yeah,
should. Yeah.
yeah, it's their responsibility to do that.
Okay.
And I think it's very important to look at what the employee or applicant has requested. I mean, and I'm including applicants because you may need a reasonable accommodation as part of an
Yeah.
interview process, for
Right. Right.
example. Um, but I would say typically take into account what the request is. And if it's not unreasonable, if it's not going to create a financial hardship or uh, require like a whole bunch of staff or something
Yeah.
like that, the person, the applicant or the employee still has to be able to perform the essential functions of the job.
Okay.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
but what I would say is, if it does create undue hardship, you don't have to go with what the person requests
Mhm.
necessarily.
Right.
Although, as a general rule, I would say most of us with disabilities, we really know we're probably more the experts on
Right.
what we need to perform our jobs than uh somebody, an HR generalist might be. And
Yeah.
I mean no disrespect by that. I'm just saying
Yeah. No.
we use these tools every day.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say is if you do have questions about job accommodations,
Uh-huh.
there is a free resource that I'm going to recommend, and
Okay.
it's the Job Accommodation Network.
Okay.
It's there for employees. It's also there for people, job seekers with disabilities, and um, it's a free service that is sponsored by the Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy.
Okay.
It's on the web at askjan.org. They also have a
Jan,
toll,
like Jan.
yeah, Job
Okay.
Accommodation Network,
Oh, okay.
Jan.
Okay. That's Jan.com.
So, yeah, so sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
askjan.org.
All right. We'll ask Jan. Okay.
Yes,
That's good.
askjan.org. Uh, and it's awesome. They have a database that you can look in. It's called SOAR,
Okay.
and it's searchable online accommodation resources. And
Oh,
you
that's
can
good.
look up accommodation resources. I mean, like if you're an applicant and you're not sure, or
Yeah.
you're an employee and you're thinking, yeah, I need a way to better manage X, Y, or Z with my disability, you can look up potential accommodations by disability
Oh,
type,
wow.
by
Okay.
disability, or by uh, maybe even by function, whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's great for both employers and applicants and employees. And again, it's free.
It's
and
free.
and they
Okay.
It's free, and they also have experts that you can connect with who will help walk you through, because you may not find exactly what you need, and you
No,
may
no,
need
no.
to
That's
talk to a
great.
professional. And
Yeah.
so they have individuals with really great technical expertise who will sit down
Oh,
and
wow.
talk to you about what your needs are.
Okay. That's great. Hey, that segment right there is just worth the
It
price of
is
admission
gold,
for
and
this.
that is my very favorite resource to
Okay.
share with employers, because it's free and it's just awesome.
Okay, well, I hope people take advantage of that. That's a good. That's another tool that I can put in my toolbox. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
So as I think about accommodations, we really don't. A lot of people don't think about like what it's like to live in the world with some disabilities or other needs. So I have um my mother-in-law lives with me now, and she has a little trouble. She's 80 years old. She has trouble walking and things like that. And
Hmm.
we went on a trip, and I had to push her in. Like, I mean, we got one of those little carts that you can ride
Yep.
around in. It's a lot, right? I mean, I know I wasn't in it, but I'm just saying it just opened my eyes to like, okay, what are we gonna do at the airport? Like, how I'm gonna deal with my luggage?
Mm,
How are we gonna? What
it,
kind of Uber do we need? It's like it's a
yeah.
whole bunch of stuff that
How are
I've
we
never.
gonna get how are we gonna get through a doorway?
Yeah, it was a whole
Or
bunch of
up a
stuff that I
curb.
hadn't thought
Yeah.
of. The elevators and where are the
Hmm.
stairs? Like, okay, I gotta know where all the elevators are. The stairs are here, but where's the elevator? Like, it was a lot. And I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
and
complaining. I'm just saying
no, 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 no.
it
But
just opened my eyes
you're
up.
saying, yeah, we need to be more proactive about this stuff and start building things with that in mind, because most people are going to be in a similar position at
Yeah,
some point in our lives,
yeah,
or we're going to have somebody we care about who
yeah,
is. So, why not just build things with all those considerations already
yeah,
in mind?
yeah. Build them right, and just I used to hear people talk about those little little scooters they have in the streets at
Hmm.
the
Those
little fun
segways, you mean?
scooters, right?
The segways? Yeah.
Yeah, them little scooters. I'm like, man, those things are all over the place. And then when you try to get somebody down the street that's in a wheelchair or in a cart, then you have to move stuff out of your way. It's just like, man, it just makes you think like, okay, this one little action of not moving something off a sidewalk, you think it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal for
Oh,
people
it's a
that
huge
have
deal.
mobile challenges or limitations, because now you place an obstacle in their way, and these scooters are like all over the place in cities now, so I understand it, I get it now.
See, and what you just said, that is a perfect example of the social model of disability, because you just said you're placing obstacles in people's way. Because
Yeah,
if you didn't have those societal obstacles, they'd be able to move around like everybody else.
right, yeah,
I mean, maybe not the same way, but they'd still be able to get there and have the same end results.
right, yeah. All right, well, that's good information. Thank you, Donna. I'm so happy. This is just such good information, I think, for people that take the time to watch this. So now, you call yourself the Disability Diplomat. So how did you become the Disability Diplomat?
I was just looking for a name for my business.
Okay.
And it was a suggestion because somebody was telling me, see, I think I'm pretty like real and opinionated, but they were like, no, but you're really pretty diplomatic.
Okay.
And so it was like, yeah, I kind of like how that sounds. So um it was sticky.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's okay. So I call myself the cultural competency navigator, right? And some
Yeah.
of it, I feel like you got to kind of, maybe you're doing this too. I feel like you kind of got to soften the approach to this work, which is a shame though, right? Because people are, once you start talking about inclusion, diversity, people start putting up these walls. So you got to be diplomatic, right? If you want to
Yeah.
bring about
Well,
change.
and see, I mean, it's like I've been doing cross disability advocacy for a long time, for
Uh-huh.
25 or more years. Um and I've worked a lot with city governments.
Okay.
So, well, and state governments.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where the diplomat thing came from.
Yeah.
It's interesting to try to find a mix of being being direct enough for people to actually get the message and understand the importance of what you're saying, but and be real enough and down to earth
Mhm.
enough,
Yeah.
but at the same time, walk that line of discretion. um
Yeah.
that's always the fun challenge.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's a hard one, Don. I think that's a hard one for people in this type of work, because
Yeah.
you want things to change,
Yeah.
but people have to hear you. So I like advocates. I tell people I'm not an advocate, but I like advocates, because, or activists. I'm not an activist. I should say I am an advocate. I'm not an activist,
Right.
but I like activists because they can beat people upside the head, and then I
Oh,
can come in,
absolutely.
they can soften them up for me. And so when I come in, they say, okay, what do we need to do? How
I'm
can we
so right there
change?
with you. I am so right there with you. Oh my God. I am right there with you, my friend.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
oh man.
So if you're an activist watching this, I appreciate you. But and I work for
Absolutely.
institutions. I worked for institutions long enough. Is that institutions don't like to change, and sometimes you have to force them to change. So it takes this significant act. But then, in order to bring about change, you have to speak the language of the institution. I feel like that's kind of where
Hmm.
I come in, and
Yep.
working with corporations, working with these organizations. I can kind of speak their language. They may not be able to hear what more of the activist minded people are saying, But what they're saying doesn't matter. I mean, it allows me to do my work. So it takes all of us,
Oh,
I
oh,
think.
totally. No, no, no. And I totally agree because some of the people who make so much great headway
Yeah.
are the activists. And
Yeah.
like you said, then we can come in and it's wonderful. They just kind of clear our path.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have talked to disability activists who are like, I just don't have the patience to be
Yeah.
working with able-bodied people and spreading the word there. It's like, no, I'd rather work with people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And I kind of understand that, but that is not my calling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And so now, so we talked a little bit at the beginning about your disability and how does that impact this work for you? How does that tie in? I know how I feel as a person of color, working
Right.
with diversity and inclusion, but and that doesn't make me an expert. I'm passionate about it. It doesn't make me an expert. I'm an expert just because I've taken the time to learn, just like you have. But so how does that impact your passion for this kind of work?
Oh, I mean, it's huge because I mean, I applaud people who have a heart for people with disabilities or people of color or LGBTQ peeps or anybody else that you would consider part of the DEI community.
Yeah.
But I applaud people who like aren't a part of our community, if you
Hmm.
will, but still have a heart for us.
Yeah.
But by the same token, I feel like it's much more impactful if I see somebody presenting.
Uh-huh.
I kind of want to know that that person has had to walk through some of the stuff
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that we are talking about.
Right.
Um, I mean, I have a respect and I have such an appreciation for people who've still seen it and have so much compassion and maybe passion for it. But there's a I don't know, it's a whole different level when you walk through it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of weird because just because you have a disability doesn't mean you're an inclusion expert, or just because you're a person of color or a woman, it doesn't make you an inclusion
It
expert. But I
right,
think it gives
right.
you a different perspective though of it, right? If you are an expert and you come from that one of the marginalized groups, if you want to use that term.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, so terminology has changed. That's these one of the things people always ask me about terms and terminology, and
Mm.
so now I guess disability is that the preferred term or kind of.
Disability, yeah, disability is cool. Whenever people start saying stuff like, oh, the one that makes me just want to gag the most is handy capable. It's like, oh,
Oh
dude, I
yeah,
know
yeah,
an
yeah,
able,
yeah,
I know that makes me want to gag, and I know an able-bodied person thought that up because
yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
trying to come up with something creative. No, I have a disability. A lot of people now, okay, preferred terminology, I think, for most folks is using what we call people first language, which means like people with disabilities, woman
Yeah.
who's blind, man who's deaf,
Okay.
person who is a wheelchair user.
Yeah.
But I think, especially younger folks coming up today, a lot of them use identity first language, which is blind woman, deaf man,
Okay.
wheelchair user.
Okay.
And um, I kind of think, like people first language puts the person before the disability, and I would say still that's probably where the majority of people
Uh-huh.
are coming from.
Okay.
But a lot of younger folks I have talked to in the disability community will say, "Yeah, my disability doesn't define me, but it's definitely shaped me."
Yeah.
And especially folks who like folks on the autism spectrum or neurotypical people, they will
Uh-huh.
say, I am autistic. I don't have autism because this is how my brain works and it's different from how
Mm.
your brain works. And that makes me who I am. And so I think that they've kind of like reclaimed it.
Yeah.
They're using identity first language as kind of a reclamation or
Okay.
almost like a pride term, kind of like how some folks, especially younger folks in the LGBTQ community,
Yeah.
have sort of reclaimed the term queer.
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
back in the day,
That was a slur.
it was it was a
Yeah, it was
major
a slur
slur.
back in the day. Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit similar in the disability population, but I would say some terms to avoid. I mean, you definitely, don't say crippled.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
don't say crippled. Don't say spastic. Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely some terms you probably don't want to say crazy or insane.
Yeah.
There are, and I could every time I'm put on the spot, I think of words that I should have included in the no list. The R word is not good. We don't even say mental retardation anymore. We
Oh
say
yeah.
people with intellectual disabilities. But um, and I think differently abled is, it still to me kind of reeks a little bit of somebody who's trying to be so careful not to offend.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, don't worry about words like see, hear, and walk around those of us who can't do those things, because hey, newsflash, we all know we can't do those things.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it's okay to say disability. It's okay to say disabled. Don't say handicapped.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, um, and I hope I haven't just confused y'all.
No, no, that's it. I mean, yeah, language is a tricky one. I tell people, first of all, just kind of ask the person if you don't know,
Exactly.
because
Yep. And that's exactly what I was going to say is you need
yeah,
to ask and same thing with pronouns, ask somebody.
yeah,
It's just polite anymore.
and generationally it's different. And so again,
Oh, it is.
I've been around for a while. I mean, I'm getting older now. I used to say I'm not that old, but now I'm getting older, right? But generationally, the terms have changed, right? Because people did
Mm-hmm.
use handicap. That was the preferred term at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and I do remember people saying crippled. And then like the organization, the ARC organization, have they changed
Yeah.
their name? Have they changed their name? Is it just ARC now?
Well, the thing is, they used to go by the whole name, which
Yeah,
was Association for Retarded Citizens, and
yeah,
and now I think they just call themselves the ARC
just ARC. Just like
and
KFC is
just
no
ARC.
longer. It's not like Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore. Just KFC. They took out the language that's
Yeah.
is not as palatable now. I guess. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I guess.
it's like the NAACP. No, nobody says
Yeah.
the Negro. Nobody uses that term anymore, right? Or
Right.
yeah, they're not NAACP. I'm thinking about the United Negro College Fund. Maybe they still call
That
it
that's
that.
it.
I
Well,
don't know.
nobody uses the term colored either.
Yeah, yeah, colored. Yeah, yeah.
And,
Nobody uses that. So
I
I
mean,
don't
and
know.
but it is interesting, and it is generational, because like, I mean, even in talking about race, I was talking to a young woman who was a college student recently, and the university here in DFW, that's in my town, is it's very diverse.
Hmm.
And this young lady happened to be Black, African American.
Hmm.
Um, and I made a comment about, I was making a comment about basically the female population on campus. And I said something about women of color.
Uh-huh.
And maybe I even said something about her as a woman of color at that university.
Uh-huh.
Oh, she got so upset. She was like, no, that to her was like me calling her colored. And
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
oh, I'm really sorry.
And so what did she like? What was her term?
I think her term was black.
Okay, yeah. I think that's the
And
well, I
I
mean,
kind of
that's
I
a new
kind of
term.
think I kind of think I kind of think black has, for a while
It's
in
making
the
the
like
comeback. Black is
70s.
making the comeback.
Yeah, yeah. Black is back. Um, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Donna says black is back. All right, hey, we gonna make sure that makes the cut.
Well, no, but I'm so sorry. No, but like in the 70s, that was the term.
Yeah, it was.
I
It
remember
was.
growing up, and that was the term everybody used. And then it became African American. And now the people who are like, but I've got some, I don't know, Haitian or
Right. They're
Caribbean
not
roots or
Americans.
whatever, they're like,
Right.
no, I'm black.
You're right. Yeah, yeah.
And because they feel like that's a more inclusive term for them.
Yeah.
Um, so
I think I actually prefer black too. I don't know, African American. It was a whole lot. It was a lot, right? It was a whole bunch, and I felt like it's one of the words that was people was. I mean, it was necessary for the transition,
sure,
right? But
absolutely,
yeah,
I
but
agree.
I think I like black too. Actually, hey, now I've been other places, and this is not to offend anyone, but I've been to other countries, and like when I was in Costa Rica, it was people say things like negrito or moreno, these other terms, and
Right.
yeah, so that's what people don't understand. I think context does matter with some of these things, and some of the things we experience here in the U.S. context are very, very unique when we talk about discrimination and how we treat people.
Sure.
Our histories. Again, you talked a little bit about these ugly laws, and so those things all matter, right? They all matter, and
Absolutely.
the transition and growth matters, um, and this is probably where sometimes I look at the young activists not knowing where we came from, right? They don't. It's been a process. Like this change and stuff didn't happen
Hmm.
overnight. Not that we should
Right.
not that we should shy away from speaking our minds or saying that things need to change. We don't need to wait, you know, 40 years for change. As long as we waited sometimes, but there's still a pace to change, and I think sometimes young people don't realize that, organizations don't realize that you have to go through the steps. You can't really just jump from here to here. I
Absolutely.
don't, I don't know, you can't see what I'm doing, but from you can't go from the lowest level to the highest level.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that, so we have to be
Right.
mindful of those things. Yeah,
Yeah.
so all
I
right,
got you.
so now so now we talked a little bit about some history and some laws, resources, and all those things. But like, okay, now the workplace culture. Um, yeah, how do we think about this, creating this inclusive and welcoming workplace culture with people who are different, people from marginalized groups, and I want you, yes, let's particularly focus on people with disabilities. Yeah, how do we just keep that culture so people do feel like they are a valued part of the team?
I think a lot of it is, I mean, I think you start by investing in your teams and gosh, I mean, hey, bring Glenn and me in,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bring us bring us in to work with your groups. I mean, seriously, a
Yeah.
lot of it is just raising awareness, and a
Mhm.
lot of that is done through training.
Mhm.
Um, but part of what I was saying before is it's like, hey, make sure your website's accessible,
Uh-huh.
make sure your doorways are wide enough.
Yeah.
Look at your policies, look at
Mhm.
how welcoming any of that is, because if you have statements on your website about how you um, that you actually value people with disabilities, I think it's gonna open the door
Yeah, yeah.
for better conversation around it.
Yeah.
And like another thing you can do is put, if you're going to have any kind of function,
Yeah.
um, any kind of company function, I would say, or event, make come up with an accommodation statement. And an accommodation statement basically is um, something to the effect of, if you have a disability or condition that requires a reasonable, you
Uh-huh.
can say workplace, or just a reasonable accommodation to fully participate in an ABC company event, please contact Mary Smith,
Okay.
at mary.smith at abccompany.com,
Yeah.
along with your accommodations request, a minimum of 5 business days in advance of the event for
Okay.
arrangements to be made,
So
that kind of thing. And
so
and
that's good.
even
Yeah.
yeah, and even better, if you can provide like a drop down list of
Oh,
potential
wow.
accommodation needs for an event, like dietary needs or
Yeah, yeah.
seating needs, or uh, ASL interpreters or captioning,
Mhm.
or um, age-related hearing loss is the most underreported disability in the country. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
just saying, y'all, Hey, you know what? Enable captioning at all your meetings. That's
Yes.
something that really, really spawns a great disability friendly culture. It's
Yeah.
something that's not going to cost you anything extra.
Right.
Do be aware that if you have folks with strong accents, that the automatic captioning is going to totally butcher everything they say. Just,
Yeah,
just so
yeah.
you're aware.
Yeah, I've,
Um,
I've seen that at an event, and they finally got it right. But it's actually so cheap now to get the
yeah,
captioning, and the technology is just. I mean, in the last couple of years, it's just grown phenomenally.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean, just some little things like
yeah,
that you can do. If your company puts out videos, be sure those are captioned.
yeah.
Just some little things that really do spark a more inclusive culture.
Yeah, I like that you brought up about events, because a lot of workplaces do have events, and especially now, maybe since maybe we do more remote work, maybe the gatherings are more important. I actually probably should link to my. I have a guide for event planners about how to make accommodations, but some of the things like you said, captioning, maybe some accommodations on how you do food service. Because
Oh
people
yeah,
they
yeah, with
can't.
different food sensitivities for
Well,
sure.
food sensitivities, but even
And,
food service, like carrying your tray from
yeah,
the
oh yeah,
serving line to the
exactly.
table.
And a lot of times at events, if it's a big event, just have a few more staff on hand,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
especially like, to me, I mean, I know that like self-serve banquet lines,
yeah,
whatever you want to call that setup, that's always going to be probably your more economical way to go
yeah,
than a plated meal.
yeah.
But it's kind of a disability nightmare, so that
Right.
is always super helpful. Be sure that you have somebody, like if you have breakout sessions or main sessions, have somebody by the door to help with the door. Be sure that you have good ADA seating,
Yep.
and make sure that it's not all segregated.
And
We
make
do
sure it's
not want
not
to be,
always just like at the back of the room or at the
yeah,
worst
yeah,
place. Yeah.
or always at the front of the room.
Yeah.
Let us sit in different places,
Okay, I like that.
and
Yeah.
ensure that there's room for like service dogs too,
Yeah.
because not just for people in wheelchairs. Um,
Okay, let
be
me ask
sure.
you. I gotta ask a service
Oh,
dog question.
all right.
All right. You don't have to answer this because I maybe put you on the spot. How do you feel about these just random animals that are not really professional working dogs? Like they're just these random animals that people
Uh,
places. Maybe you don't want to answer that, but
oh no, I will totally answer it. It pissed me off.
okay, yeah, yeah.
If I need to say that nicer, I'll say that nicer.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
We can do that. We can say that. So like
Uh,
how do you know, like, if it's just a random.
the way
Pet?
that the way that most businesses will know
Uh-huh.
if a service dog is legit or not is the ADA does not require that the dog have a harness or wear something that identifies it as a service dog. Okay, but the one thing that it does say is that the dog either needs to be tethered, which means leashed or harnessed,
Uh-huh.
or some people's disability would make it difficult or impossible. It would prevent them from being able to, use a leash or a harness with their dog, maybe.
Yeah.
But the dog needs to be under the person's command at
Yeah.
all times and not like running amok.
Yeah.
Um, Also, if the dog, I mean, there are times that dogs just have a bad dog day.
Yeah.
My dog got sick in the grocery store one day. Um, and I mean, it was embarrassing. I felt bad for my dog, and thank God they didn't throw me out, but they did know that I was like, I called somebody else to come get my dog and take her home
Oh, okay.
while I finished my shopping trip, because I didn't know what else to do.
Right, right.
Um, but so there's the behavior of the dog. Also, it is absolutely legal for you to ask um, if the person has the dog because of a disability.
Oh, okay. So you can't ask that, yeah.
No, you can say, do you have this is this dog here because of a disability?
Okay.
And if the person says yes, then you can say, what tasks has the dog been trained to do?
Okay.
You
Okay.
can ask what kinds of tasks the dog has been trained to perform.
Yeah.
um you can't say, is this your service dog, or what's your disability? You can't say things like that.
Okay. Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, I've been to the thing about it is, you have dogs that don't know how to behave in public.
Right,
You have
right.
dogs that may growl and snarl at my legitimate service dog,
Wow.
who could pose a danger to her.
Yeah.
And you know what? I paid the price of admission for my dog to go
Yeah.
to any event, with my disability. So, are you willing to pay the price of admission for your dog to go?
You buy a ticket for your dog to events?
No, I'm saying my disability is the
Oh,
price
I
I
got you.
paid.
I'm
I'm so sorry.
on me.
No.
I
Under
got
the
you. I
ADA,
got you.
I don't have to do that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was like,
No,
what?
but
I got
my
you, but you're saying that
disability.
Yeah, you paid the cost with your
Yeah.
life for this dog to be able to do this. Yes, I got you.
Yeah, yeah. My
Oh,
disability is the price I paid
okay, all right.
for my
We probably should
dog to
leave that in
be.
there because that just shows how ignorant I was with that comment. But
No,
I
no, I'm
get you.
sorry. Well, I said it and I went, oh man, I probably just worded it
No,
wrong.
that's good. That's
Uh,
good. That's good. That's
no,
good.
but my disability is the price I pay for my
Yeah.
dog being able to attend an
Oh my.
event.
Yeah.
And are you willing to pay that same price for your dog to be able to attend the event? And it, it's just, it just,
Yeah.
it just pisses me off. I
I
don't know what
got
else
you.
to say.
I
It's
got
like,
you.
and
Yeah.
I even have had friends who have told me that they take their dog and tell people their dog is a service
See, that's
dog.
a
And
shame.
I'm
That's a
like,
shame. That's a shame. Yeah.
and I'm thinking to myself, I would be the last person you need to be admitting that to.
Right. Right. Why would they tell you that? That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
I know, but I've had a couple of people who have said that. And,
What?
um, and the thing is too, it's like the ADA does not cover the dog if it's somebody else's service dog that you are babysitting or dog
Right.
sitting.
Right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
cover that. So,
All
um,
right. That's
and
yeah.
even if the service dog gets anxious and chews up a piece of furniture at a hotel, guess what? We have to pay for whatever if the dog destroys something.
Yeah.
But chances are, if it's a service dog, they're not going to do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. They're normally good dogs. I had
Yeah,
some
they're
this. So this is a random story. It doesn't have anything. I mean, somebody had just a random dog. It wasn't a service dog in the hotel next to me. Like they locked the dog up in the hotel room all day long. The dog was just whining and barking. I'm like, man, people are
oh
so cruel to
yeah.
animals. But yeah. So any other like tips you want to share as we get ready to close, for people as we want to foster an
Oh,
environment that considers people with disabilities. Any of it? What's your best tip as we close this out, Donna? You've given us so much.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Thanks for putting me on the spot with my best tip. I guess just honestly, I think just just trying to make your oh yeah, just trying to make your business as friendly to everybody as possible. Uh,
Okay.
Um, God, Glenn, I am just leaving you hanging here.
No,
I
that's
have
right. I mean, make your business friendly to everyone, and it doesn't take, like you said, it doesn't take a whole lot. I think that's some of the things I've gotten
well,
out
yeah,
of here.
it doesn't, you know what? Yeah, make it friendly to everyone, make it welcoming to everyone because you have no clue when things might change for you and you
Ooh,
might be that person who
you might
needs
be the one.
the
Yep. Yep.
yeah, you
Keep
might be the
living. That's what we
one.
said earlier. Keep living
Yeah,
because
you
yeah.
might be the one who needs the wider doorway or who needs
Uh-huh.
the accessible website. Um, so make it welcoming for everybody. And yeah, it doesn't cost much most of the time. It
Yep.
doesn't take a whole lot. And just, I don't know, just attitude is everything.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Donna, for
Thank you,
joining me
Glenn.
today. You've given us so many good tips, good sound bites. Black is back. Thank you, Donna, for that. Uh, uh, I looked crazy when we started talking about the price of admission, but hey, some of us have paid the price of admission, and so we are a vital part of this community, and we need these accommodations so that we can contribute and be an impactful part of community. The days of pushing people to the side because of physical disabilities is gone. There's a viable workforce out there. There are people with viable skills that may just need a small accommodation. And Donna, you've told us that those accommodations don't have to be ridiculously expensive. We're talking
No,
about
not at all.
reasonable accommodations. If you don't know what that is, you've given us a website, so we'll put that website up where people can go and ask Jan, askjan.org, and so we'll put that up. Also, make sure that you talk to the people that you're potentially hiring, the people that work for you, and make sure that you take care of those websites. Those are some easy things. Put those statements up. One of the things I was going to say when you talked about statements on your website, I know I look at websites all the time to see like what are the images on the website, what are their statements on diversity and inclusion. I make business decisions based on a lot of that. To say, hey, am I going to
Absolutely.
be
Yep.
welcome here at this place? Are they even thinking about me. Not that the organization is racist or exclusionary.
No,
I want to see if they've taken the time to think about people like me. And the website,
exactly.
says a
Yep.
whole lot about that.
And you know what, too? In your alt tags,
Yeah.
I pay attention to the alt tags because sometimes the alt tags may tell me a person's race or their, their, I like their how they present, whether they
Yeah.
present as male or female,
Okay.
or they may say something about LGBTQ, and I always look for things like that because that tells me that that culture there is it's a very inclusive culture. So pay attention to what you put in those alt tags.
All right, we will close with that. Thank you so much. I'm Glen Guyton, your cultural competency navigator, and our special guest today that dropped a lot of information, a lot of knowledge for us is Donna Mack, the Disability Diplomat. Thank you so much. You all have a great day.